Focusing this morning on our Southeast Georgia students is what we're going to be doing here on the morning show. Dr. Sid Chapman is president of the Georgia Association of Educators. He's here to talk about this school year and the challenges facing our local schools in particular. Good morning. Thank you for being here. Do appreciate it.
Thank you.
And you really represent administrators and teachers, similar to a union, though not exactly.
Right.
But you really have a very good idea of what our educators in Southeast Georgia are facing. And I wanted to start because, and this is something that needs to pull the parents into the conversation, is you said that there's a real concern about waivers. And I have to tell you, when I was first reading and researching this yesterday, I had never heard of this before, and it's important that parents are aware.
Well, every district in Georgia had to decide whether to be a charter district or a strategic waiver district, and both of those allowed the local boards to ask for certain waivers, anything from classroom size to staying on the teacher's salary scale, or to have duty-free lunch and on those sort of things.
And so that meaning that, for example, if you hear, you know, at the state capitol about teachers are getting raises, that parents and educators might make an assumption then that means that their district is going to get that. But really, you need to talk to the school district and the local county to see if they've somehow waived that going into effect. Absolutely,
because they often waive the state salary schedule and use their own schedule and put the money that's supposed to go on for raises somewhere else.
Maybe somewhere else, or delay it, or for whatever reason that there is. Now, we have a lot of rural counties in Southeast Georgia.
Yes.
There are certain, and really arguably more challenges than maybe the bigger districts when it comes to educating and making sure that they have the resources of rural counties, that they have what they need.
Right. The equalization of funds that come from the state and from the federal government, there's a formula for that, and of course our old formula is QB, Quality Basic Education Formula, which has never been fully funded. And a lot of what goes into the local education system is based on tax base, and so when you're in a more rural area, the zip code in which you live does affect the quality of education that you have, and we'd like to see that improved, that every child have a quality education regardless of zip code, and so that's going to take some work.
And is that partly because what you see then in Georgia in particular is that, you know, each child, there's a certain amount of money that's provided by the state, and when you have the rural counties and not as many children there and there's not as many taxpayers, then as a result those resources may be going elsewhere and not to those schools?
That's exactly right. Very often the school system is the largest employer also in some of these rural areas. So money that comes down from the state comes down from federal government, and then the tax base, though, is really the kicker in local areas.
And I want to just very briefly also mention community schools and that concept, which helps really engage parents also as well as educators into how these children are being educated.
Well, yes, we have a huge problem with poverty, and students that live in poverty, they're transient. You have all of this excessive testing that's placed upon them. They move from area to area. They come to school hungry. A lot of our schools in Georgia have started what they call backpacking for the weekend, sending food home.
We have that here.
Right,
sure.
So that's a great thing. There's also a need for being able to wash your clothes. There's food pantries and clothes pantries, and some of the schools, that's that whole community concept. Partnering with the medical community, dental, and that sort of thing. Because the austerity cuts of $9 billion over a decade have really just devastated our ability to hire social workers and counselors and people that are needed.
And it's a reminder of the need of the community to get involved so that they can help, because not all the money is there. I want to very quickly talk about, there was a woman in Glenn County, her name is Jennifer, a parent who ended up leaving the Glenn County district because she was so concerned about bullying. In fact, she posted in the Brunswick News, in fact, kind of in their rants area, that she was terrified, that her daughter was terrified to go to school because she was afraid that she would get hurt. She cried every morning. It got to a point where I couldn't get her out of bed. Again, lived in Glenn County, and they since moved, and they had moved here initially from Georgia, another part in Georgia. Parents like that, what do you tell them? What are their resources? What can they do if they're concerned about their child's safety?
Well, there's really a tremendous problem with bullying, and we try to address it the best we can. The NEA, our parent organization, National Education Association, has a great plan, a great deal of resources to help teachers and parents, and the PTA, of course, works on this, and to be able to address the bullying situation, you have to get people educated as to what bullying is, and now with everything cyberspace,
social media,
social media, that sort of thing, and a lot of times you don't even know what's going on.
Yeah, you have to be engaged. You've got to ask those questions. Thank you, Dr. Chapman.
Know what your kids are doing.
Ask the questions not just of the school, but of your child as well. Thank you, Dr. Chapman, for being here. Do appreciate it. We'll be right back.